On our anniversary, I overheard my fiancée whisper to her friend on the balcony, "He's just my backup plan. I'll leave once I'm secure." They clinked glasses while I lit the candles and sighed. I said nothing. I just waited. 2 weeks later, her friend contacted me. "She's panicking." "What did you do?" I, 31M, thought I had everything figured out. 3 years together, ring picked out, venue booked for next spring. My fiancée worked in marketing at a tech startup while I'd built my own consulting business from scratch. We lived in my downtown condo that I'd bought 2 years before we met. Everything seemed perfect on paper. The night that changed everything was supposed to be special. Our 3rd anniversary. I'd spent the afternoon preparing her favorite meal, buying expensive wine, setting up candles throughout the apartment. She'd invited her best friend over for drinks beforehand, which was normal. They always hung out before our date nights. I was in the kitchen lighting the last few candles when I heard them step onto the balcony. The sliding door was open, and their voices carried clearly through the evening air. Her friend asked about our relationship, about marriage plans. What I heard next felt like ice water in my veins. My fiancée told her friend that I was just her backup plan. She said she was waiting until she felt more secure financially before she left me. She mentioned that once her startup went public or she found something better, she'd be gone. They clinked their wine glasses together like they were celebrating. I stood frozen in my kitchen, lighter still in my hand, as my entire future crumbled. I finished lighting the candles. My hands were steady. When they came back inside, I acted like nothing happened. We had dinner. We talked about work, about wedding plans, about our future together. She smiled at me the same way she always did. I smiled back. That night, lying in bed next to her, I stared at the ceiling and planned my next move. I wasn't angry yet. That would come later. Right then, I was just calculating. Over the next few days, I started paying attention to things I'd missed before. How she never contributed to household expenses despite making decent money. How she'd been networking aggressively lately, staying out late for work events. How she'd become vague about her startup's progress. How she'd been pushing for a more expensive wedding venue, bigger guest list, fancier everything. She was building her safety net while planning her exit strategy. I decided to build my own strategy. First, I called my lawyer. Not for divorce papers. We weren't married yet. I wanted to understand my legal position regarding the condo, our shared accounts, and the wedding deposits. He explained that most of our major assets were in my name, which was good. The wedding deposits were trickier, but manageable. Next, I started documenting everything. Her income, her contributions to our household, her spending habits. I opened a new bank account at a different branch and began quietly moving money. Not hiding assets, just protecting them. Then I got creative. I knew she was job hunting because she'd started taking mysterious phone calls and disappearing for long lunches. Her laptop was always open on the dining table, and she never bothered hiding her screen when I walked by. She felt that secure. I started sabotaging her job prospects in small, untraceable ways. When she mentioned interviews, I'd casually bring up concerns about her current company to mutual friends who worked in tech. Nothing malicious, just innocent questions about layoffs or financial problems. Word spreads fast in our city's tech scene. I also began undermining her confidence at home. Not obviously, I wasn't cruel. But when she talked about her career ambitions, I'd ask gentle questions that highlighted potential problems. When she mentioned networking events, I'd express concern about her working so late. I framed it all as caring about her well-being. The brilliant part was involving her startup's competition. Through my consulting work, I had connections everywhere. I started feeding information about her company's strategies to their competitors. Nothing illegal, just insights I'd picked up from her casual conversations. Her company began losing deals they should have won. Within 2 weeks, her confidence was shaking. Her job interviews weren't going well. Her current company was struggling. The startup's public offering kept getting delayed. She became more clingy, more dependent on me for emotional support. That's when her friend reached out. She called me on a Tuesday evening while my fiancée was at another networking event. Her friend said my fiancée was panicking about something but wouldn't explain what. She asked if I knew what was going on, if we'd had a fight, or if something had happened at work. I told her I had no idea what could be wrong. My fiancée seemed fine to me, though maybe a little stressed about work. I suggested maybe her friend should ask her directly, but I could hear the concern in her voice. My fiancée had apparently been calling her multiple times a day, paranoid that something was wrong, but unable to pinpoint what. She'd started questioning whether she should move forward with our wedding plans. Her friend seemed genuinely worried. I reassured her that everything was fine between us and that I'd talk to my fiancé about whatever was bothering her. That night, when my fiancé came home, she was more affectionate than she'd been in months. She curled up next to me on the couch and talked about how much our relationship meant to her. She said she'd been thinking about our future and how lucky she felt to have found someone so stable and supportive. I held her close and told her I felt the same way. Update 1. The next few weeks were fascinating to watch. My fiancé's world was slowly falling apart, and she was turning to me for comfort without realizing I was the one pulling the threads. Her startup announced another delay in their public offering. The company she'd been interviewing with hired someone else. 2 more job prospects fell through after what she described as strange interviews where the hiring managers seemed to already have negative impressions of her company. She started spending more time at home, more time with me. She began contributing to groceries and utilities without me asking. She suggested we scale back our wedding plans to something more reasonable. She even offered to take over planning duties to save money. I graciously accepted all her suggestions while secretly admiring how perfectly she was playing into my hands. The real breakthrough came when I overheard another conversation with her friend. This time, my fiancée was the one seeking reassurance. She told her friend that she was starting to think she'd been too career-focused and that maybe settling down with someone reliable wasn't such a bad thing after all. Her friend seemed surprised by this shift. She reminded my fiancé about their previous conversations about independence and keeping options open. My fiancé brushed off these comments, saying she'd been foolish to think that way. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Update 2. 3 months after that anniversary dinner, my fiancé's transformation was complete. She'd become the perfect partner, attentive, contributing, grateful. She talked constantly about our future together and how excited she was to be my wife. Her startup had folded. She'd taken a lower-paying position at an established company. Her financial independence was gone, and she was genuinely dependent on our relationship for stability. I'd won, but I realized winning wasn't enough. I wanted her to know why she'd lost. I planned it carefully. On a quiet Sunday morning, over coffee and breakfast that she'd prepared, I told her I had something important to discuss. She immediately looked worried, probably fearing I was having second thoughts about marriage. Instead, I told her about what I'd overheard on our anniversary. I described every word she'd said to her friend, every detail about backup plans and exit strategies. I watched her face change from confusion to horror to shame. She tried to deny it at first, then attempted to explain it away as meaningless conversation. But I kept talking. I explained how I'd spent months systematically dismantling her independence. I described each move I'd made, each connection I'd leveraged, each subtle manipulation I'd employed. By the time I finished, she was crying. Not the pretty tears of someone seeking sympathy, but the ugly, desperate crying of someone who realizes they've been completely outplayed. She asked if I was leaving her. I told her I hadn't decided yet. She begged me to understand that she'd never really meant what she said to her friend. She claimed she'd just been scared of commitment and that she truly loved me. She swore that even before her career problems, she'd started having second thoughts about her backup plan. I listened to all of it without expression. Then I asked her a simple question. If her startup's IPO had happened as planned, if she'd gotten her dream job, if everything had gone her way, would she still be here? She couldn't answer. Update 3. I gave her a choice. She could leave immediately with the money in her personal account and whatever belongings she could carry, or she could stay and rebuild our relationship from scratch under new terms. If she stayed, there would be complete financial transparency. No separate accounts, no independent career moves without discussion, no major decisions made without consensus. She would contribute equally to household expenses regardless of income differences, and she would earn back my trust through actions, not words. She chose to stay. That was 6 months ago. Our relationship now exists in a strange space between partnership and penance. She's working hard to prove her commitment, but we both know it's largely motivated by necessity rather than choice. She's become the girlfriend I thought I had, but the foundation is built on her defeat rather than mutual respect. Her friend stopped talking to her after learning what happened. Apparently, she couldn't handle being around someone who'd become so dependent on a partner who'd deliberately orchestrated their dependence. I still haven't decided if I'm going to marry her. Some days I think I will, just to complete the transformation. Other days I think the point has been made, and I should let her go find someone who doesn't know her true nature. The engagement ring sits in its box in my dresser drawer. Every few weeks, she asks about wedding planning, and I tell her we're not ready yet. She nods and agrees, grateful that I'm still considering it. People ask if I feel guilty about what I did. The honest answer is no. She made her choice when she decided I was good enough to use, but not good enough to love. I just made sure the consequences matched the crime. Sometimes late at night, when she's sleeping next to me, I wonder if this is what justice actually looks like. She's safe, housed, cared for, and completely trapped by her own earlier choices. I'm with someone who's devoted to me out of necessity rather than genuine feeling. Neither of us is particularly happy, but we're both getting exactly what we deserve. I've learned that revenge doesn't always involve destruction. Sometimes it involves giving people exactly what they think they want, then making sure they can't change their minds. She wanted security. I gave her a cage. She wanted a backup plan. I made sure I was her only option. The irony is perfect. She's more committed to our relationship now than she ever was when she supposedly loved me. Fear is a more reliable foundation than affection, it turns out. I'm still deciding what to do with this victory. Marriage would make it permanent, but divorce would be expensive and complicated. Staying engaged indefinitely keeps her in limbo, which feels appropriate given how she planned to keep me there. For now, I'm content to watch her try to earn something she already lost the moment she called me her backup plan. She's building a future with someone who knows exactly how little he means to her, and somehow that feels like the most honest relationship either of us has ever had. Her friend was right to panic. But it wasn't about what I did to my fiancée. It was about what my fiancée had already done to herself. Some backup plans work both ways.